All right, so it is Tuesday, another glorious day, and we have ourselves not only our everyday patch and comic release, but we actually have some balance changes to some cards, which, Lord knows, this was definitely not expected. I was not expecting this, but we will take a look and see how this is definitely going to affect the meta, because it definitely will. And over time, we'll see how things shift. Batman Noel, comic adventure, yes. And then balance changes. Appetite for Conquest now reads, give enemy recruits everywhere -1 power. Give your recruits everywhere +1 health. Draw a card. My lord. That's a doozy right there. The card's not dead, okay? It's definitely not dead, but it will hurt a little bit. So instead of it before giving -1 health to your opponent, and then also giving 1 additional attack for your cards, it's just the power and the health. But then they added the draw card. And honestly, the draw card might be actually pretty important, because late game drawing, especially for Tyranny, can be pretty good. Of course, it combos with, you know, having the Vine out, then you're not only damaging your opponent, but I'm glad they did, you know, compensate it somehow, you know, having a draw card. So it's not as bad as it may seem. I know some people have said the card's dead now, and I don't think it's dead. It definitely makes the card fair. I will say that I think it should keep, I think they should have kept the plus attack for your recruit. Like, essentially just made it to where the opponents didn't lose health. I think that would have been fine. I think it would have been fine and still fair if it kept the +1 attack for your units and not just the health. But yes, it's a hit for some decks. Some decks is definitely still going to be necessary or really good. But some decks, of course, you may want to get rid of it because there's other Tyranny cards that probably will still be very, very good. But the key is, it's not dead. It definitely is not a dead card anymore. It's, it'll hurt, and I'll definitely will do some testing with it and the current decks that I have to see if it's even worth. But if we find out it's not worth, then we can definitely cut it for like, maybe like, I don't know, Atlan #2 or something. Starro #2. Like, there's a lot of different things that will still be feasible. And like I said, draw a card is still fine. All right, Robin is now a 5/4, was a 5/5. So -1 health on Robin. I mean, Robin's still really good. Now, yes, things hit it. Like energy card, there's several different energy cards that really is going to hit it. And I mean, anything -1 health, you still got to be very careful because a lot more units can kill it. But he still has evade, so I think he's still auto-include in anything that you play in tactics. Like, you're still going to play him because there's a possibility, of course, getting a charge. And if he still like survives, then it's pretty much still really good for you. So next one, Superboy is now a 5/4, was a 4/4. Now that one, there's a lot of implications on that one because that combos with a lot of different things. Like now, like Superboy was already kind of on the cusp. Like, you could tell if someone was playing Superboy before and they didn't have a full collection, because Superboy was one of those cards that was like good, but then you get something better and then you just like, okay, I can't fit Superboy, so you cut Superboy for something else. But now, as a 5/4 with shield, that's like a free attack, kinda. And the good thing is he still keeps his 4 health, so it's like Robin was up here and he was lowered a little bit, and then Superboy was down here and he was raised a little bit. So it's like Might and Robin kind of like, you know, kind of equivalent, not really, but still. And of course, that means the Superboy combos with Black Adam as well. So you'll definitely, we've already been playing, like even myself, I released a video literally today that was Aquaman and Black Adam. So now Superboy, I think, will be a fine addition to that deck. Because, yeah, he would proc Black Adam and a few others. So, man, crazy. All right, what else? Giant Anglerfish is now a 2/2, was a 3/2. I think that's fair because Giant Anglerfish, there's been times I've been seeing like Giant Anglerfish himself like get buffed out of, he would buff himself to crazy numbers and then he would buff other stuff to crazy numbers, because then you're like, I can't kill him, but then he's straight up buffing everything else, and by that time it's like it's just GG anyway. I think that's okay, because he's still going to do what he's intended. It just kind of slows up his advantage. And you also got to remember, we have, was it Volko now in the game, so he can actually help in buffing. And we also have Atlana, who also is going to help get the Anglerfish. So it's not like that devastating. I don't think that's devastating at all. It's just -1 attack. And by the time he comes online, especially in the late game, especially if you got Atlana, it's like you won't even really see a difference. Jason Blood is now a 4/5, was a 2/4. Now that is very interesting, because anything that has a +2/+1, like we talked about this with Peacekeeper, anything that gets like huge buffs, like this is like a 3-stage buff, +2 attack and +1 health. It's definitely going to see a lot more play. The best thing about it is that at least with 5 health, more than likely he'll live to another turn. There's a good chance he can live to another turn, so then that you can actually try to get Etrigan. Because before it was like a super combo oriented. You wanted Jason Blood and then you wanted to have, so you had to preset up. Now you don't have to preset up as much. Especially if you like play him on an empty board now and they're like not able to get what they need yet. Like you could very easily probably get him to Etrigan like maybe in a silver bronze turn, because then you get like a free magical spell, and then you can play like a bronze magical spell, or say you went first and your Zatanna is able to proc like next turn. So there's a good chance he at least lives one more turn with this. I'm glad it doesn't have aura. If it had aura, like if they were going to give aura to it, then it would have to stay as a 2/4. Like anything that has like we already have the issue with Pedro, who for whatever reason is a 4 health with aura bronze card that can do astronomical damage. Still waiting for a nerf on that guy, but still. I think it would be interesting to see how Jason Blood works. I still don't know if it's going to be worth it, but now is probably the time to experiment with him to see how he does. All right, 6 blessings now gives +3/+3 was 1/1. I don't know. I mean, that's good that it's +3/+3. The loss in tempo of playing it and then hoping that you draw something next turn, I don't know about that one. Like it's good that it's buffed because it was already kind of being experimented with. I don't know if it's enough though. I don't know if it's enough to make it meta, but I think it's still, you'll probably see it here a little bit more here and there. Welcome to Task Force X now gives +2/+1 was 2/0. I don't know if it's still going to be good enough. The problem with Task Force X is like it's one of those cards that you have to play in the beginning of the game, or it's better if you play in the beginning. The earlier you play it, the better. The later you play it, it's a feels bad moment because you do lose tempo with it. Like if Task Force X was like, I don't know, was that Escape Tunnel that allowed you to draw a card? I think the Suicide Squad cards still need a little bit more love. Not necessarily that the cards themselves need help. We just need more of them. And it doesn't help that right now, cards like Killer Croc is not working. Once like Killer Croc, or essentially cards that have like a bonus attack like Killer Croc aren't working right now. And also Penguin is still bugged. So that does hurt aggro a little bit, but I will say this might be future proofing. Like Especially in the future, if we get more Suicide Squad cards, like this definitely could be very, very good. To the point that maybe drawing, if this had draw a card or draw a task for a Suicide Squad or something, that this would be too strong. Maybe that's why it doesn't have it on it, because the developers, of course, are looking in the future, while we are just looking at this moment in time. Black Manta Leader now shows the correct number of cards discarded from the opposing player's deck. Okay. Players are now able to edit decks from the deck selection screen when they are at their deck limit. That's great. This happens a lot. The edit button located on the decks in the collection and play screens now work properly. Okay, cool. And Cardback Catwoman, which you get from the comic, currently has the wrong description. A few details about these changes. I think it's on the previous one. Insider information, chat. Let's see what's up. The company are patching us this week. We have gotten some insight from the design team into the changes being made to the game. This was a point of feedback given on our last set of balance changes via the Discord. As always, your feedback is a major aid for us and we appreciate the input. Okay. Appetite for conquest. All right. Yes, now reads give enemy recruits everywhere -1, give recruits everywhere +1, and draw a card. Thank God it has draw a card at least. This card has been on the balance team's radar for a while now. It is a powerful and heavily played card, and its usage has only continued to grow after recent changes. Okay. Tyranny has many powerful gold cards at his disposal. Yeah. This one has been seen near ubiquitous play. Yeah. Stifling many of the other available options. True. True. Exchange is aimed at keeping Appetite for Conquest as a strong option for control-oriented decks, but making it less of an auto pick for all decks in this faction. Yeah, we're kind of saying that. I mean, like I said, the card's not dead. It's just that you definitely won't see it as prevalent, and it won't be automatically like, dang it, they have Appetite. Robin. Robin is now a 5/4, was a 5/5. Thank God that they, having the was on there is actually pretty big. Because some cards, when it's been changed, I'm like, wait, how was it changed? But yeah. Anyway, the Boy Wonder is one of the premier silver recruits for tactics. We felt he was slightly too good at too many things. While his evade makes him hard to deal with by attacking, substantial health made him a little too effective at surviving removal by direct damage. This change is intended to make him more vulnerable to cards like Energy Blast and Hellblaze, while still keeping him as an attractive option for most tactics decks in the silver slot. I think Robin's still an auto-include, to be honest. The fact that he's still... It's like he has guard, right? Because of his charging of your leaders is just so strong. Being able to charge your leaders, I still think he's an auto-include. And because you have Robin and then you have Blue Beetle plus Paco combo, there's a lot of different charging stuff that charging in the mid game can still be very strong. Now, granted, yeah, he's definitely going to be sought after even more. But, you know, if your opponent still uses resources to kill Robin, he can still 2-for-1. If they have to go out of their way to kill Robin, he can still bring value in that aspect. So this was one of my decks that I actually, not necessarily abused, but essentially was a second win condition, was using Amazonian Bracers on Robin. Because before, if you add Amazonian Bracers to Robin, you pretty much make yourself an early Mr. Miracle. That's even better. So there was plenty of times with this deck that I would literally just win in the mid game by just placing down Robin and placing down Amazonian Bracers, and then it was just like GG. Because at that point, especially in the mid game, there's no killing it, and there's no way to... You know, especially if they don't have a board, there's nothing they could do about that. And it's like, we're making Mr. Miracle at home, and it ended up being a lot better. Still doable. It's just that, of course, he's like Mr. Miracle -1 health, but still charges your leaders. So I'm still like, okay, fine, whatever. This deck is still Still doable, although I haven't updated this deck with the new cards and such. I'm still holding on to it because I do want to make some updates, if you will, to it. Superboy, now this is what we were talking about before. While the stat increase may look like only a small change on paper, we think this will provide a serious boost to Superboy's effectiveness. This should help multiple archetypes. I like the subtleness of this. It'll help multiple archetypes. Yeah, okay, you know, literally just not even saying, yeah, this is gonna help Black Adam, this is gonna help, you know, 5 attack stuff. Like, there's a lot that this right here affects so much. And the fact he has shield. This right here, I'm a little afraid. I'm a little afraid because having a, I don't know, shield meta, if you will, but having more units with shield is like, great. Okay, I already see what you're doing, okay. Giant Anglerfish, this change will make it a little more difficult for the Anglerfish to grow itself. While summoned by Aquaman or Throne of Atlantis, it will typically be in more of a support role rather than being able to easily overwhelm enemies on its own. Yeah, especially in the early game. So in the early game, yeah, he'll definitely be supportive. He'll come out as a 3/3. But then later in the game, he'll probably be able to get online, especially if you're at Lana. So I think it's fine. It's perfectly fine. Jason Blood, Jason's low stats have made it difficult to keep him around when you can't immediately transform him into Etrigan. Yeah, this boost will hopefully make him a little less of a vulnerability for those times when you need to play a silver recruit but don't have the spells ready to transform him, right? Because then he just ends up being not necessarily dead, but like in your hand and you didn't have a good chance to play him. I mean, to be honest, I mean, this card has so much flavor. It's a shame that it hasn't been played or, you know, as prevalent. Like, come on, man. They spend so much time to make sure even the words on the card rhymed. He's gotta have some love. He's gotta have some love. Come on now. So, like we said before, we'll see how this changes things. I think you'll see him included in the Satana decks when before he was a liability. Now he may not be so much. We'll test out. We'll test it out and see. Already played Jason. Now it's for sure. Yeah, now you won't be ostracized. You're like, yeah, I'll put Jason Blood in my deck. Before it's like, ew. Oh, he plays with Jason Blood? Oh, he just wants to lose. Now it's like, all right, hey, I play Jason Blood. It's like, Giga Chad. Respect. All right, 6 blessings. Now give +3/+3 was 1/1. The payoff for playing your blessed recruit wasn't quite as impactful as we'd hope it would be. This increase to the stat bonus should really make that character feel like they were blessed by the gods, provide a bigger incentive to try out some fun late game combos. Emphasis on the late game. It's so hard to really, it's really so hard to evaluate this one because this has a merit of RNG. Because you play it and then you're hoping that you get your recruit that has this. At least before, if you put it on a recruit, then it was like, if it was, say you put on like a bronze recruit that normally is understated in comparison, that you're like, great. Now at least +3/+3 is not as bad, especially with the speed and flurry. There's probably gonna be some testing on this. Hopefully this doesn't lose you tempo, but we shall see. And finally, welcome to Task Force X. Okay. Welcome Task Force X can be a tricky card to properly build around and execute. Yeah. Our data showed it was underperforming our expectations, so we decided to give it a little more juice by adding a health increase. I don't know if that's still going to be enough. I really don't know. Like +1 health, yeah. Because if you wanted to hit everything, you would have to play 2 Task Force X's to hit like everything in your deck. And then of course the first one only hits the ones that were naturally Suicide Squad. And it still doesn't hit stuff like Partners in Crime, which are summons. It's only natural ones. I mean, +1 health is nothing to sneeze at, but man, you can still lose so much tempo by playing this. If you play this like later, it definitely will hurt. I don't know. It's really gonna be hard. I think, like I said before, I think this will definitely be a lot better once we get more Suicide Squad cards. We end up getting some really crazy Suicide Squad cards in the future. This can definitely be like, oh my god. That's why I think it's more future-proof. Because the developers can see all the future Suicide Squad cards that are coming out, and while we can't. So, and that's why I think they put 1 health and not like this and draw a card, or this or and draw a Suicide Squad, like Escape Tunnel. Because it might be too strong once you see everything that comes out in the future. That's my assessment on it. Like I said, I'm actually surprised by the changes, and I'm surprised that there were changes. And I honestly am okay. I would rather have changes than not changes, because changing any cards kind of spices up the meta, spices things up, as long as they're not like, I don't know, either too far to the extreme or too far to the negative. But otherwise, I like it. And we'll see how things go.
This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon.